Hey Jake, thanks for having me. My name is Chinmay. I am an immigrant to Canada. I came to Canada roughly in 2007. When I came to Canada, I was having trouble even getting into colleges and universities because I was doing my bachelor's in India and the parents decided to move halfway. So I just tagged along. And when I came here, I realized that, oh wow, the education system is completely different. And I was in the mindset of deciding whether I want to go back and finish my bachelor's or do I want to give up my 2 years of bachelor's that I was doing in India and just start here in Canada, whether it's a college or a university. So that was my first big decision moment, or basically say first adulthood moment for myself when I had to make that decision. I decided to stay in Canada with family and everything, and got into a computer engineering course in Seneca College. I think that was one of the best decisions I made in the context of selecting the college over university, because that college gave me an opportunity to talk about and learn more about open source technology. College had tie-ups with someone like Mozilla and Fedora and Raspberry Pi. And if I do some open source commitment, then I get some course credits while doing it. So
Mm,
once I did that, that was my initial journey into software development. And the reason I share this story particularly is I love open source. I haven't had enough chance to working in open source world, but this particular part of my story becomes a marquee event for me to get into so dirty part of the code, because again, Mozilla and Fedora and Raspberry Pi, the code base is so gigantic and documentation is very limited, and the support in the community is very worldwide. It was my true introduction of what programming can be. And the moment I did some of the my submissions in the next 3 4 years in open source and courses, schools, and everything else, I was ready for the real world. That's why this was very, very, very crucial for me. After my schooling, I did join a startup as a junior developer. There were roughly 20 people when I joined. The startup grew to 150-ish people. The development team grew from 5 to like 15 or 20. I was junior developer, a couple of promotions, 6 months, 12 months kind of thing. Became an evangelist internally where I was working with, like, of course, doing some coding, but at the same time, working with the outside of the uh, tech team to get their features in. So it was like a very interesting exposure that I was getting, where I was working with the product team, I was working with the sales team, I was working with higher executives and translating their code and working with the CTO. Again, I've been very fortunate where CTO entrusted me with this kind of role. I took something off his plate where I'm gathering all this data, converting into user stories, and getting some time, at least 1 to 2 days a week, where I'm also coding some stories myself and, of course, passing it on to some other team members. So that was my first exposure to what a startup can be, what a growth can be, what a scale can be. And from there, I have been always working in a startup mode and didn't feel like going to enterprise. Before the startup, I had 4 month co-op at an enterprise in Canada, and seriously, I didn't do anything at that time. They didn't assign me any work. So once I got the high of working for a startup, for the like last 15 years, I've been only working in a startup, either myself or me as a founder or me as a someone who's supporting another founder. Fast forwarding for roughly 6 years, I started my own startup back in 2016 when I was naive enough to believe that if I build a good developer tool or a good product, there I can build a big company around it. That was so stupid and naive of me to believe that at that point in time. We built a good product. You as a developer will appreciate it was literally building Postman plus plus, where all the features that Postman has right now, we started with those features first and then start added everything else. For the viewers who doesn't know what Postman is basically how developers build and test their APIs. APIs is a way they build their web services and basically how their mobile connects to the backend. So front end, back end integrations. So I started that company. 12 months down the road, I realized that, oh shit, this is a good product. People are using it, but nobody really wants to pay for it. So without payment, without revenue, there is not going to be a company around it. And at that time, I had another co-founder that joined me as well. And financially, we were like, this is not going to work out. Let's find out something else. And lucky enough, we made some amazing connections in the journey of building these tools and everything. We started promoting ourselves as a API developer slash consultant slash strategy providers. And within a week of this first pivot, we realized that, hey, there is a lot of potential. And we landed our first client. Luckily, it was Deloitte. So from there, we were able to build an entire consulting business out of it. We grew the team to 20 people in the next couple of years, and from there, we were able to set foot into much more exponential technologies, and that's when we got introduced to blockchain and everything else. I'll take a pause here if because I'm going on a express train here. Jake, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me and ask me any questions.
Yeah, no, it's great. I appreciate the story so far. I guess one thing that I was just going to ask at this juncture was, going from sort of trying to do a startup and people like the product, people are using the product, but no one wants to pay for the product. So you sort of pivot to maybe this more of like a consulting thing, and you
Mhm.
get your first client. And I was surprised to hear that your first client was Deloitte, because that's a big client. So how did
Thank
you
you.
actually go about like going from sort of nothing, you guys had this product, you had some ideas, and to actually landing Deloitte as a client?
So basically, like again, whenever someone creates a startup with heart and soul, they actually create uh, good level of technical competency and business competency around that particular product. So if this product was completely around API development, we called it API Garage. So the whole idea was how can we deploy microservices architecture infrastructure faster using event-driven the infrastructure and using API Garage, the tool, as the forefront of documenting deployment and then testing and everything after that. So, because we presented ourselves as an expert and we also got the expertise around that, we were able to, whenever we were like networking in the industry or in Toronto, that's where I'm from. So, when we started networking, people started asking us questions. So, this is being genuine. In terms of ecosystem, we were just helping people left, right, and center whenever we can. Of course, we wanted the product feedback, but at the same time, if somebody's struggling with their APIs or microservices or anything around that, we'd be like, yeah, let's just jump on a call for a couple of hours and let me try to help you debug this issue. Whether they use our tool is a secondary problem, but we just wanted to talk to our users. And the same thing applied with Deloitte, where they were one of their venture creation arm was launching a new venture that was extremely integration heavy, and when they were working towards that, we were helping them here and there in a friendly manner for last few months, and of course never charging for it. But the moment we told them that, hey, we are going to move from product for consultancy, and then if they had any opportunity where we can help them on a paid gig, uh, it became no brainer. They basically were like, yeah, we have this role, we have this position, we have this problem slash like a project. Can you come in and help us with that? And there were two developers. We had requirements. We just got in right there and then.
That's great. And then so I think you were going to say like how you got into crypto maybe from there.
Yes. So while we were running this API consulting business, one of my friend reached out to me and then asked me like, "Hey, do you know what Solidity is?" And no, I didn't. I heard about Bitcoin at that time. Ethereum
When
definitely not.
when was this roughly?
This is roughly 2017.
Okay.
So 2016, 17, I don't remember the exact timing, but like basically around that time, he reached out and then he was asking me this question of like, hey, have you heard of Solidity? Have you heard of Bitcoin? And he was struggling with some of the code. He was getting stuck on an error that he couldn't solve. He was also learning, and we are like, you know what? Let's take a look at it together, right? Like as developer, when you see an error, you are intrigued to go and solve that problem. So We sat down over a weekend. Over the weekend, we solved the problem. We read the code, we read the documentation, whatever was available. We fixed the problem, and at the end of it, I was got so into it. I'm like, this is a fascinating database. It's slow, it's doesn't scale, but at the same time, the ownership aspect, the immutability aspect is so powerful that there can be so many use cases. So that was my first shot, but I'm a very skeptical person where if I see something, I get impressed by it, but I would not get adoption, like I would not start adopting it right away. I would definitely wait for it. But at the
Right.
same time, because there was a market was good, we were like, why don't we just expand our consulting service to blockchain and see what the market looks like? Because we were reaching a ceiling with core API development. What else can we do? So we reached out to a few friends who were already in crypto, and we asked them like, hey, do you have any problems that we can help you with? And few weeks later, we had one small project where we were helping them do basic ERC20 smart contract writing. At that time, ERC20 writing was a big deal. Right now, there are so many templates. You click a button, and it just works, and it should be in that way. But at that time, it was a big deal. So we
Yeah.
got into it. We helped a few clients. After that, we did a bunch of more blockchain development. We rebranded API Consulting or API Garage to, we called it BlockX Labs. We grew the
Was
team.
that was that because, sorry to interrupt, but was that because like basically the business that started coming in from blockchain clients, crypto clients was just starting to really outweigh the other stuff that you were doing prior?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like we got more money in crypto a little later on than we were getting outside in like in API development. We were doing also some consulting development anyways. So that paid the bills for the first 6 to 12 months while we were like doing a lot of open source work in crypto as well,
Right.
where we are basically getting paid like when we should have gotten paid like $100 an hour, we were getting or 150 plus more. We were like charging only $10, $25 because we just wanted to learn and
Right.
we didn't want to give the service for free because free means people would abuse it. So many such projects, and one of the another marquee project that we had at that time, we received a funding from something called Moloch DAO. I don't know if you know Moloch DAO, but Moloch DAO was like the very first DAO that was giving away money for people to build in the ecosystem. And
Hmm.
the project that we bid on and got there is something like a mixer. So basically, Tornado Cash before Tornado Cash, we built it, but we actually, now the right word is probably we got cautious and didn't deploy. At that time, I was labeling ourselves like we chickened out and we're not going to deploy this on mainnet. But luckily, we didn't deploy, but we built the product. We built based on ZK solution, fully end to end. And the fun part is we made a lot of connection based on that project. It was like, again, I think at that time it was like $20,000 or something. Definitely, we did not make any money out of it. I don't even know if I really withdrew that money if I think of it now. But the point is that based on that project, it gives us so much uh, understanding of how different things work. At the same time, it gave us so much credibility in the industry that after that, whenever we go out and talk about this project, they are like, "Yeah, you guys are credible. Now it's just about numbers, and we can build that or not." So we did that until 2021, but agency world is very tiring. We were working around the clock for somebody else to build products and projects on, and we don't get really the upside out of it. Plus projects are very like hamster wheel kind of feeling where you're just
Mm.
going in circles and you're not really achieving something big. Mind you, great money, but there is, so fulfillment is not there because you're literally after 3 months, 6 months, you're starting from scratch again. And that is
Right.
very annoying. So we were looking for product opportunities, and that's when we had an opportunity to build Perks. Again, I'll take a pause if you have any questions in this journey before I move forward.
Yeah, no, I think that part of the story makes a lot of sense, and I'm mostly just intrigued to hear what happens next with Perks.
Awesome. No, thank you. So while we were doing this, all the consulting work and blockchain work, and we served amazing amount of clients. And one of my friend or professional friend we made, like, and became a good friend afterwards. Uh, we helped him do a lot of blockchain development. It is the company he was, and a lot of other side of the e-commerce work because it was a combination of that. So we helped them quite a bit. And then the guy joins Shopify, and in if I remember correctly, February March of 2021, he reaches out and asks me, "Hey Chinmay, you know e-commerce because that's your first few years of technology world, and then last few years you've been in crypto. We have some brands who wants to do crypto onboarding with Shopify. Do you think
Mm,
take those clients?" And I'm like, yes, but I don't want to do more agency work. If there is a product opportunity, absolutely yes. And then he's like, yeah, that's between you and the client. Just talk to them, figure out if that makes sense. Then I'll make the intro and we'll go from there. So he did. He made introduction to Budweiser, Superplastic, and the Hundreds, which are like gigantic clients to start with. And
yeah.
we talked to them, and then they're like, "Yeah, whether it's a product or service doesn't matter. We are trying to achieve this goals. If you can, as long as you can help them, help us with that, and as long as you are creating something usable and feasible from the financial side, yes, we want to use it. Especially because products are generally cheaper than agency work." So they
Yeah.
were actually more excited to get more product work than the agency work. It was fantastic. And that's how Park started. We sold roughly 15 to 20 million dollars worth of NFTs for big brands. We started doing like even more in token gated commerce. So a lot of work was put in. And in 2020, now if I look at it, 2022, we raised funds from investors based on the revenue that we generated. And then we one thing particularly in that fundraising, we told them that, look, we know NFTs are doing amazing. We know that we have made some good money out of doing it, and that's what you're banking on as an investor. But let me warn you that whatever we have built will be obsolete in next couple of years, because every market cycle will bring new opportunities, and will in 2 years we'll have to build something absolutely new in order
Mm,
for us to find again product market fit. So yes, the product market fit is here. Next 12 markets is going to be still here. They'll still continue making money, but I'm raising money after 12 months when I don't really make any money. That's when I will need this. And they were, most of them gladly supported that vision. They thought it was more pragmatic and practical than anything else. So based on that, we continued building. And when the time came in the bear market, we realigned our thesis. And one of the thesis, our basket, was around uh, Warpcast. We wanted to build more social tools. So we expanded the Shopify offering to creating frames through Shopify. And then we created direct messaging inside Warpcast and XMTP integration. So all the creator tools were built until the third quarter of last year. And we realized that brands are not coming back to crypto the way they were. And that's when we started looking into building something completely new. And internally, we looked at our capabilities, the market opportunity, and started looking at Basket. So
mm, interesting.
again, I'm going to take another pause because again, this is another marquee event, and make sure that I bring you and the audience together.
Yeah, of course. So we'll get into basket, but just to dwell on, I thought what was quite interesting about your fundraise was like the approach that you took to it, the transparency with which it sounds like you spoke to investors. And it's one thing to be transparent about, hey, just because this is working now, come next cycle, 2, 3, 4 years from now, I don't think this product is necessarily going to still be the thing that we should be investing our time and money and energy into. Like, we'll probably need to find something else. Like, this market's growing and innovating and changing quite fast. All of that, like, to be transparent about all of that is one thing, but to even be able to recognize that in the first place is another thing. And I'm curious, like, I don't know if you had,
Mhm.
prior with the agency, if you had raised money at any point before for any of your startups, or maybe been a part of a team that was raising money, even if you weren't necessarily involved directly, but to sort of, and like, it's only a few years into your experience with crypto at this point. Most of that was agency work, and then more recently it was the product. Since the Shopify connection, building perks with Budweiser and all of this. But like, it's not like you had sort of done this, a bunch of times before, or that crypto had been around for 20 years and showing like sort of patterns of these sort of cycles. Like, how do you think you were able to sort of have the confidence at that stage that what you were doing, like, I think most people, if their startup is working really
Mm-hmm.
well, they're like, man, this is great. Let's continue to double and triple down on what we're doing here. And somehow you were able to see in like the best moments at like sort of, the highest of highs for your company, that probably what was going on was not going to continue, and you were going to need to find new products to build in the future, and then obviously making the choice to be transparent about that with investors, where some investors might prefer to hear that this is the thing that we're focused on for the long term. And it's sometimes easier to invest in someone with sort of a definite vision versus a frank acknowledgement that we're going to need to figure it out from maybe from scratch in a couple of years.
No, that's totally fair. So no, I've never done fundraising before this. This was my first fundraising event. We have been cash flow positive until that point. So I like to say it other way around, basically saying I like paying taxes. I don't know why, but I paid taxes every single time I ran a business, even except that one year where the like when I started the company back in 2015, 16. Other than that, the company has been profitable. So I had the confidence with me saying that, look, we're going to figure it out. Like we have always figured out the money making part as long as there is a demand. So that was always inbuilt. When we were fundraising, this was our first fundraising, but we had a team of like experienced founders in the past. They built companies in the past and everything. Although this was first fundraising for us together, or even like us as leaders, we were like part of different companies at that point where they were doing fundraising, and we were just like helping them with like data or product or proof points or anything else around that. So we were just confident that because of the network that we have built, because of the services that we have provided, because of the clientele that we have, because of our track record of ability to make money whenever the opportunity comes, um, we were able to convince investors saying that, look, if the opportunity comes, which in crypto we have to be extremely aware of, but there are plenty of opportunities. Once the opportunity is in front of us and we can identify it, making money is the easy part. So with that mindset, they were like, okay, if that's the case, then give us the roadmap of your existing products. If that product itself continues, that will give us the idea of can you really expand on this if this works? And if it doesn't work, then the first step would be to get it to the point where you are right now. And then because you have shown the process of how to use this product and go to the next stage, you will be able to show me the same thing with the next product and go to the next page. So that's the thought process I think investors used. But again, my theory is just be as much transparent as you can. Of course, professional. Don't overload the information. Overloading information and transparency are sometimes like that's how people think. That's not how.
Mm.
It's more about picking and choosing the information that will get the point across in a way that you both are on the same page. So that's how we approach the fundraising, and luckily it worked.
Nice. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it sounds like was probably for the best, given, I mean, it sounds like at this point with Basket, you guys are still functioning out of the same entity, perhaps using, the money from that same raise. And so this point at
Yes.
which you're at, I think probably would have been, somewhat uncomfortable or awkward or just not felt great, or one side might have been a little bit displeased, or both sides, if you guys hadn't approached the fundraise how you had. But since you did, now at this point, investors shouldn't be surprised. You guys don't sound like you're particularly surprised, and you can all just sort of continue to move forward on the next chapter and remain aligned and optimistic about the next step.
Absolutely. And at the same time, again, because this was my first fundraising, I didn't know. But recently, after talking to my investors and everyone that's saying, hey, we are going to try more products. We're starting with basket. We have a couple other ideas as well. Depending on which one really clicks, starting with basket, we're going to double down on that. And surprisingly supportive, not only because I shared these things in advance with them, they were explaining to me actually saying that this is a very normal process. Like there is no reason to stress. Pivot is a normal thing. This happens more often than not. And of course, I am calm and composed because I was planning that way. But looks like it's a very common thing, regardless of whether you share with your investors or not. As long as you share with them the progress, and when you make the decision, you share those decision making afterwards. That's okay as well. You don't need to share these things if you don't feel like it at the time of fundraising. It's given most startups will go through a major pivot.
Yeah. No, I think to pivot is, you know, relatively normal probably,
Yeah.
but to anticipate one as things are going extremely well is probably less common as the founder, where it's just like the investor might even anticipate it at that point because they've seen this, 100 times before, and they know, no matter how well things are going, like the pivot might be likely in the future. But for you, having just started this thing and things are going super well, it's like I feel like it's hard to have that perspective, but you did, and I think it's definitely benefited so far. So anyway, how does Basket work? Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so basically in like November, December last year, we put our thinking hat on and say, look, we tried everything that we wanted with Perks right now, and now we can't build any more features until the market picks up. Until then, we need to work on something bigger and better, and we need to put Parks in the maintenance mode. So we got together, founders got together, we got other team members included as well, and we just asked them, what problems do you really face in crypto every day? So there were some standard ones like, hey, wallet sucks, the UX sucks, the standard ones as in like it's too complicated. All those
Yeah.
things happened, but at the same time, one theme constantly kept appearing. Like we all have been fans of DeFi, and at the same time, there are so many tokens. I don't have time to research. That also kept coming. And at that time, one of my team member basically says, "Hey, what if we build a basket of tokens, basically a way for people to buy into meme tokens in bulk and then sell it in bulk." So that was the initial idea, and then we did another analysis on the basically trend analysis. My bad. We did another trend analysis and looked at what going on in the industry at that time. So you look at Pump.Fun, you look at how a token bot basically works, and a couple other things work, and then or Clanker, I mean, all of them basically are allowing individuals to do something on chain from scratch. It's not just buying and selling, it's more about coming up with a concept on chain is the trend. So instead of us building pr- products like basket ourselves, what if we allow anyone to everyone to create basket from scratch in less than few minutes? If we
Mm,
can achieve that goal, then we are playing in the trend. Plus there are already many similar products out there in the market, like there was Crypto 20 back in 2019, then Coin 50 was launched roughly 6 months ago, then the Index Scoop has been out there for few years, and then the Reserve is there. So there are a few products already, but all of them are trying to, in my opinion, all of them are trying to create a particular product or product suite that is offered by themselves.
right.
What if we don't focus on creating the product themselves, but a platform where anyone can launch their own products?
Mm,
That was the eureka moment when we were like, you know what? Then let's create our MVP to test out this thesis. Can we really bring the creation part less than 5 minutes, less than 1 minute? Right now, I think it's less than 30 seconds if you're really good typer. So that creation part has worked. Now we just need to figure out how can we do that consistently, and then now focus on the buy part. So right now you're gonna see a couple of marketing campaigns we're gonna be running in like a week or two, where it will focus on more people to create more and more baskets, because the basic work, MVP work, now marketing and engagement, where people are creating more and more baskets. We're approaching 100 baskets right now, and our goal is 5,000 by the end of this year. So we just need to like start pushing. On the other side, that we will have to figure out is what makes people buy baskets and sell baskets. And so far, it is more about providing as clear data available as possible, whether it's a good basket or a not so good basket, whether it's a trustworthy basket or not, and what has been the performance so far. And if it is good enough, then people will go through the hoops to do it. So this is the journey that we are starting with the creation of basket as the starting point where anyone can do it. And now basically allowing creators to promote their baskets. And the third phase will be allowing people to buy. So the whole phase work, all three phases work, but we need to start just beefing them up individually.
So from a product perspective, I think it makes sense what you're saying about like sort of marketing these things out, but and beefing up the product. But like fundamentally, the core actions are already working. Where if I want to go and create a basket, I can go do that.
Yep.
I can easily create it and offer it, and like I don't know, send a link or whatever, and then someone can go and invest in that basket, and like that full flow is working.
Yes.
The things that need work are more so, details and features such as, for example, allowing people who, go to the website to see, when they look at my basket, it's not just like Jake's basket, it's, Jake's basket and Jake has like this many followers and, here's the performance of the basket since he created it. And here's, some, how many people have invested in it and stuff like that, basically.
Exactly. The last feature is probably the biggest feature, in my opinion. This is going to take a little time, but how many people have bought the basket, or how many individuals have bought into the individual tokens that are made in the basket or used in the basket? That way,
Hmm.
you can gain more trust in the basket before purchasing it and then going from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had, first of all, I think it's, a great idea. I have been interested in some of the prior versions that you mentioned. I wasn't familiar with like all of them that you named, but like Index Coop or Co-op, whatever that was called,
Yeah.
like I was familiar with that one. I think Coinbase just announced fairly recently, like within the last few months, they had an index of some sort.
Point
And
50.
yeah, and so none of these, I mean, all of these have been interesting. I'm generally like pro index,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to crypto. But that none of these, existing products, previous products have quite, satisfied what I've been looking for. And I think that this, what you mentioned, it's like sort of, being a marketplace for baskets or for indexes rather than a provider of them where, both basically it's many to many instead of one to many, with many being, instead of one on like the creation side. Like you guys could try to create your own baskets, but then that's like a lot of work for you. You might as well open it up so that the best traders and investors in the world can create their baskets. And those people, maybe there's no one on your exact team, or it'd be hard to hire a person who's like top 0.1% or whatever at like
Yeah.
following everything and creating these indexes and whatever. But if you open it up, those people should find the platform themselves, because if they can create baskets that outperform everyone else, I'm assuming, I mean, maybe you could talk about this, but like, I'm assuming they get rewarded in some capacity for
Yeah.
how popular their basket is, and how many people invest in it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me add a couple more details here. So first of all, think of it this way. Like if there were any ETFs or index funds to be created, it takes roughly two people to create an index fund. Like you need a seller and a builder, right? Like I'm talking in the traditional world, whether it's
Sure.
NYSE, TSX, or Chicago, like CME or anything else. It takes at least two-person team. They are paid handsomely, so 200K each, roughly speaking. So in order to sustain two people full time, that basket value has to be around $3.5 million. Like AUM or TVL in our crypto world has to be around $3.5 million. That's the amount, the level of amount required for it to break even before it even starts making money. That's a lot of money to basically just put a basket in the world. The second one is index coop. Let's just go with that. Or index co-op. I think it's index co-op. Everyone just called it index coop. So I just did that. It's index co-op. You're absolutely right. So based on index co-op, and I've talked to some people who they have partnered with, and then the process behind it, which takes to get an index up and running as part of index co-op, is roughly 2 to 3 weeks. So that's roughly 100 hours. Let's go with that. In order for it to perform well, the number that makes sense to have as part of that particular basket under TVL has to be around like 500,000 to $1 million in order for people to justify the hours they have put in and the constant promotion and everything else around that. And that's a lot of work. But what if the whole thing, instead of putting 100 hours or instead of putting those like 6 months at standard index funds, what if you can just create a basket within 30 seconds? Then even the $50 sounds like a good ROI. So that's the mindset we are going from. Let's lower the barrier so much that any output they get out of it is feels like a bonus output. So that's the mindset we are creating the product structure from.
Interesting. And yeah, I mean, you're going to get people who will create a basket just to create a basket because, like you said, you know, even people investing $50 or $100 like might be enough to make it worth their 30 seconds or whatever it is. But then,
Exactly.
you know, presumably the people who are sort of more serious about it, even though they could do it in 30 seconds, they're going to spend a ton of time, you know, not that they have to because of the way you guys built the product, but they have to in order to, you know,
Mhm.
select the best assets for the basket. So they'll spend a lot of time and they'll take it more seriously, and then they'll launch with an expectation of like, you know, it's not because they had to take 6 months or 3 weeks
Yeah.
or anything to launch it, but they chose to take the time because they know that they're someone who can like produce and offer an excellent basket, and then they can go and do that, and they spend the time promoting it and whatnot. And then if they do, you know, attract $500,000 or $5 million or something into the basket, then it's, you know, well worth the time that they sort of electively spend up front. And you know, some people will spend the time and they won't get that much
Yeah.
AUM, obviously, but at least they're choosing to invest that time versus sort of that being the floor for what's required to do something like this.
Yeah, no, it's like saying that there are going to be some high production cost videos and there are going to be some low, like basically somebody's just shooting from their phone and whatever they do kind of a phone, like the front camera videos. Both kind of videos and content exist. Same way, both kind of baskets will exist. And depending on certain scenario, which is out of our control, some baskets will go viral and will get more popularity compared to the amount of time they have put in into research. For example, there are some people, like there are lots of people actually, they constantly research new tokens, ongoing basis. This will be a perfect place for them to just say, okay, today I researched 5 tokens already for my own investment. How about I just convert this into a basket and then I put my money in that basket itself so that everyone else feels like this is trustworthy. And from there, everyone else can also buy the same basket. And now person can start making passive income. So this gives an opportunity for creators who are already doing research, analysis, content creation, text, and everything. With one more extra command, they will be able to convert their research into a basket. So that's where I'm hoping that that will be, I think, the ideal flow that people will go through. And at least there are, I on Twitter, I've seen like at least 5 to 10 posts a day that is talking about different group of coins. So every time someone sees that, converting that into a basket would be super easy, and I think people will do it.
Are these baskets so far mostly comprised of like meme coins and whatnot? Like they're pretty high risk, or are they also like are there baskets that are, you know, like 50% Ethereum and things like that?
It's a combination of everything actually. So there are some which are like completely like a meme coin basket, but there are lots of like a vertical basket as well, which are a little low risk where there are some, like for example, if there is a basket with like Anon and Banker and
Right.
let's say those are utility token or utility meme coin basket, and there are some baskets with like WBTC and sorry, not WBTC, CBBTC and WETH, and that's like a
Right.
60/40 composition. So there are
What?
different levels, and there are some people putting like a USDC as part of it as well. And I'm like, you don't need to, but I can see why people want to do it. I don't want to be the judge of what people use it for. This is a technology, and we should come up with as many use cases as possible.
Yeah, so two questions. One, is this all on base? So like you're not gonna have like Solana or BTC, but you can have like CB, and stuff.
So right now we're launching with Base, and I think Base is where Base is it's gonna take time before we go out of Base. There is no reason for us to go outside of Base right now. We were
Right.
only debating between Base and Solana, and personally, I have been the EVM ecosystem since beginning. I've not coded a single application in Solana, so as my team actually, none of us have. So it is so easy for us to just get started with Base. Plus, my conviction on Base is high since the day it was even announced. I
Yeah.
actually made the whole prediction around why would brands pick Base over anything else. Just one reason, because the company behind Base is an S&P 500 company, period. So that just
Yep.
makes life so easy for brands and their compliance officers to decide to pick Base versus Solana versus anything else.
Yep. Yeah. I share your optimism and conviction on base. When I was like launching an NFT project 6 or
It
so
just makes
months
sense, right?
ago, it was yeah, it was. I mean, it was the same thing. It was very clearly to me either base or Solana, and felt better about base personally. Although I think Solana is also a great choice for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think both. Basically, for me, it's like been pretty clear for a while, and not to say that I'm necessarily right. Obviously, information can change, but like it's been pretty clear to me like the 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 three best like sort of assets to hold, like the least like my view is that crypto is extremely risky still, and so within crypto you want to try to be as conservative as possible in a lot of ways, especially if you're building on something
Yes.
because it's really hard to change, but also with investing. And so for me, like the way to be relatively conservative within the context of a very risky game that is crypto is to basically be invested in Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana with like sort of market cap weightings roughly is how I like to do it. But some people prefer to do like 50/50
Agree.
or whatever. And then in terms of building, I'd build on Base or Solana, unless I guess if I was doing something like super like where decentralization actually was like incredibly important and the transactions were high cost, maybe like Ethereum, but the L1. But other than that, I think most things don't really need that. They can be
Yeah.
faster and cheaper, and the decentralization can come later and doesn't need to be quite to the same standard as the L1 or whatever. So I sympathize with all of the choices that you made there. The other question I was going to ask is
Mhm.
what was it? We were talking about the various baskets. Oh, with you mentioned like some people having USDC in their baskets as like a percentage, and I wonder. I mean, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Like you were saying, it doesn't make a ton of sense to you to have that, but let people do what they want, and I would agree
Yep.
with you, unless I don't know, but like, is there an ability for like can the basket be actively managed and adjusted basically, or is it fixed when the person invests?
So, you mean the weightages, right? Correct?
So like let's say just for ease of example, there's a
Mm-hmm.
basket that's 50% anon and 50% higher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and person, let's say you created that basket and I go and I invest in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I put $50, so it's 25 to, and maybe there's fees or whatever, but roughly speaking, there's 25 to anon and 25 to higher. Can you then go, like, is there a way for you as the basket creator to say, hey, actually, I don't really like, one of these as much anymore, so I'm going to cut that to 25% of the basket and change. I really like, Gadupi coin, so I'm going to go change 25% of the basket to that, and it'll either be sort of the changes will sort of be implemented for either existing people who have invested in the basket and or maybe just new people who invest in the basket thereafter or some combination of that. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, basically, is there
Yeah,
an
yeah, yeah. I
option
get it.
to have it be dynamic, so I can basically entrust that person. Like that version requires a higher amount of trust in the basket creator because they're also the
Yes.
basket maintainer. Whereas if it's just a fixed basket, I still need to trust the creator to some extent, but I'm investing through your platform, so I don't really, you're going to make sure that I'm not getting like rugged or something. And
Yep.
then, I mean, obviously the individual tokens in the basket could be rugs, but like you're going to make sure like at least I'm investing in the basket, like I really am investing in the basket, so I don't really need to worry about that. And then if I can look at all the assets, like I don't really need to trust the creator that much. I can do my own homework on the basket that they've made and say, okay, that's what it's going to be. Like that's what I want to invest in. But if they can change it over time, it's a higher, need to trust them basically. Does that make sense?
100%. So you are spot on, sir, in terms of trust part. Like since beginning, my reason to get in blockchain is we are basically automating trust. We are reducing or removing the human based trust to automating trust by using blockchain, right? That's where the trust comes in. So like trustless trust, that's
Right.
the word that we used to use in the early marketing days. So point is here, as an standard basket buyer, you are trusting the basket creator to have that particular breakdown however they want. Now, right now, we are not allowing anyone to change anything. It's a smart contract complication. In the
Got it.
future, we're gonna allow them to do so with more like some kind of a flag where you know as a buyer that this particular basket can be changed later on or this basket cannot be changed later on. So it's more of, but because that particular flag is stored on chain, we are borrowing trust from the chain and providing back to the user. That is how I think will functionality will work. Right now, no, there cannot, it cannot be either when it is created.
Yeah, that makes sense. I figured that would probably be, we talked earlier about how you've got the core things built out, but there's work to do on some other things. Like I figured that would
Yes.
be probably down ranked on the list for the future because it sounds like it's probably pretty complicated and comes with some other things. So I think better off focusing on some of the things you mentioned earlier with just, making sure that you can even people can evaluate baskets easily, see what assets are in them, how they're doing, who the creator is, stuff like that. And then once you have the sort of fixed baskets or static baskets down, you can move towards the variable or active dynamic baskets, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah,
later on, and clearly sort of distinguish between the two, like you said, for buyers so that they know that what they're getting into.
I
Yeah, and
agree.
so my thing, just I think indexes are great, like I've said, and I think the index that I'm actually most interested in is pretty
Mm-hmm.
hard. It's it's less of an index to sort of be on the cutting edge and like make sure that I don't miss a meme coin, and more so something that is the difficult part about it is that it's like inherent, like it's to minimize risk of investing in crypto. So it's basically considering the possibilities that such large events as like, Solana could like go to zero, like not literally zero, but like really like something really bad happens and it goes like effectively to zero. I mean, to be fair, it almost did last, like it went from 260 to 8 or whatever last cycle. So that's pretty unbelievable that it's been resilient to climb back from that. And obviously Bitcoin has done that as well in its history. Ethereum, I'm not sure what the worst Ethereum crash was, but I don't know if it ever had one quite that bad. I could be wrong though. So
There were a
anyway,
few, but
yeah,
again, that's like it happens in crypto, right? Like
yeah,
right now, or it happens in any early stage industry. Like 15 years, we think it's like long term, but if you look at like banking sector, if you look at like railroad, if you look at like automotive,
right.
15 years is a very small amount of time.
Yeah, so my thing is uh what was I saying? Oh, basically the version of an index that I would like to see is
Mhm.
minimal dependencies. So it's different. Like I'm interested in baskets. Like I'm looking forward to checking it out. I'll probably Oh, hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm trying to take some notes because you're saying you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
something. Tell
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. I just got my headphones made a noise. I just want to make sure. But
Nice, all good.
But I don't think I honestly don't think this is worthwhile for you guys because it's just a categorically different thing. So what I was saying is like I'm interested in basket. I'm going to check out basket. I am probably going to make a basket
Perfect.
and maybe going to buy a basket. So all of that, like it's all great. It's all interesting to me. The other category of indice that is that has been interesting to me for the longest time is like the ultra conservative index or the ultra conservative basket. And what I mean by that is like even with index co-op and some of these other iterations, there's always there's more dependencies typically than
Hmm.
if I could just invest. Like they're typically more risky than just investing in Ethereum as sort of like a baseline. And what I'm looking for is actually to be able to make an investment. If this thing existed, it would be like a substantial investment. Like this would be like sort of my main way of investing in crypto. Would be
Okay.
if I could somehow reduce as many risks as possible of like platform risk. Like I don't want to have to believe that index co-op is going to survive 10 years because I think Ethereum is far more likely to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like
Of course.
things like that. And then I don't want to have to buy whatever it is, wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum because I think the whole point is I want to diversify away from Ethereum. If I want Bitcoin, I want Bitcoin, or I don't want to wrap Solana on Ethereum because the whole reason I want Solana is because I want to diversify for Ethereum. And that's not to pick on Ethereum. The same would be true
Yeah.
on either Bitcoin or Solana. And so what I've like sort of wanted is like, how can I have this? It would fall under the second category of what we were talking about, where it's not fixed, but it would be active. And
Hmm.
most of it would be fixed. Basically, the top part would be like relatively easy. It would be investing in Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana. And again, there's custody risk as well. So I'm not particularly interested in having additional custody risk or having to depend on a custodian and things like that. But also I don't want it to be like, if it's fully self custody, then how are they going to manage it? Like there's all these sort of questions.
Yeah.
But like basically removing as many risks as possible, being able to invest in a market cap weighted basket of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, like Dogecoin, and basically you would have like, and there'd be some opinions inserted in the basket. So maybe you would say, we don't need Ripple to be market cap weighted here, or we don't need any USDC because that's not what this is for, like stable coins. But like, so there might be like certain, some opinionated moves. But in general, the goal would be to be like as least risky as possible and as least dependencies as possible, both in terms of like the tech and the custody and everything to invest in a market cap weighted basket of all crypto. And that would also include like the active component. Like it would be like sort of this long tail product, obviously, but the active component would be trying like basically probably doing something similar to like what snipers do almost, but you're just doing it with like
Hmm.
0.000000001% of the portfolio gets allocated to, it's even probably less than what I just said. Like there's not enough decimals I can even say to like get across how small it would be, but basically putting like fractions of a cent into like everything new. And then
Ah.
like, and basically just, the goal would be the uh, least risky way to invest in crypto without taking an opinion on which coins will win. That would be the goal.
That is
And
interesting.
yeah,
So,
and it
so
it
I.
aligns with, yeah,
Mhm.
go ahead.
No, no, no. So this is good, right? Like what you basically mentioned is you want growth potential with like upcoming new coins, but at the same time, stability is more important than anything else, right? So that's how you're suggesting it. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah, because the thing is, I can do the top, like I can do the power law part of it myself, and I basically do. Like I have, if I market cap weight invest in Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and if I want to add some others that I feel are like sort of over the threshold of like top coins, like I can do that and I can market cap weight them, like I said, or match the percentage of my crypto portfolio that's invested in these coins to their relative dominance. So, if Bitcoin is 60% dominance, then maybe I'll have 60% of my crypto investments in Bitcoin. And then the part where it's too difficult for me to manage is really the long tail of, I'm not going to be there like sort of actively investing in everything new and trying to get in as early as possible with small amounts on everything new or all of that. And I guess, that is where Basket makes a lot more sense, like what, your guys' existing product. And so maybe the answer is to do the top part myself and the bottom part with something like Basket. And then, maybe some of the stuff gets lost in the middle, but at least you're sort of like taking a barbell approach, if you will, and you feel pretty good about the way that you're handling the top and pretty good about the way that you're handling the long tail.
That is very interesting. Like if I need to create the sniper approach in a basket, then we have to figure out like how that sniper can be tokenized. But it's very interesting way of thinking. Let me think about it and then get back to you on how that can be done. I see it as like multiple baskets, like one basket with like upcoming meme coins, and there is one person who's actively managing that basket. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and there will be one person who is not so actively managing the basket with like traditional, not traditional, but like uh, blue chip, let's call it, right? Like blue chip uh, tokens. And then there is something in the middle that basically that's your basically trading opportunities. Whenever you get one, you do it. If you don't, you don't. But that becomes like two baskets and one middle approach by yourself. That's how I'm picturing it. But let's see. Let's see. This is a
Yeah,
very
no,
interesting thought exercise for me.
I think that's right. And, like I said, I almost hesitate to even share it because I think it's not, I think it's a fairly unusual desire in terms of what people would want in a basket. I think the more popular thing that you guys will probably see is people looking for sort of the best, uh, what would I call it? Like,
Performing.
people like treasure hunters or something like that. Like basically people who are the best, that I think people are going to come to your site to find baskets created by people who have proven themselves to be the best at finding, early stage coins before they do 100, 1,000, 10,000x. And so they'll put, amounts of money in these indexes that they understand, like the overall basket, hopefully, will maybe have a lot of coins that go to zero, but also, it'll basically be like a venture basket where a lot of the coins will be expected to go to zero, but because you trust the person and the person has a good track record who's creating the basket, you give benefit of the doubt that they have a couple of 1,000x or 10,000x coins in there, and so you invest in their basket as a way of basically investing in their investing strategy or something like that. And
Yeah.
I'm interested in that personally, and I think other people will be. So I just don't think the other stuff is probably near term worth your attention, but figured I would share. Like that's been the nature of
Yeah,
why
no,
I've been
super
interested
helpful.
in indexes for so long. And then now, years later, as there's a lot more coins, obviously, I'm interested in other sorts of indexes as well that I think are more aligned with what Basket can provide in the near term.
No, man, thank you so much. This is amazing feedback. Like, let me go back to the drawing board and see what you basically say and like say it, and then figure out like if there is a solution can be derived with baskets for similar personas.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. I know we have gone, well over on time, but I appreciate you taking all the time. And, I find your vision and the way that you sort of are able to communicate both what you've done in the past and what you're doing now and plan to be doing in the future all comes across as extremely clear and logical and coherent to me, which I think a lot of, not to like throw shade, but it make a lot of people, sometimes if there's like sort of holes in their thinking, people can sort of just like jump from one thing to another, and the jump doesn't always necessarily make sense. But I feel like everything that you're doing has like a very clear derivable track or like train of thought, which is nice to hear and easy to follow. So definitely
Thank you.
bullish on you and what you're doing with Basket, and we'll be excited to follow along. Where can people go, or like what would you like people to do at this stage with where things are at right now? Like what's the first thing that you would like for people to go do, and even if it's just following an account or following you, or going and creating a basket, or whatever it might be.
Awesome. By the way, thank you so much for the praise. I really appreciate it. Coming from you, it means a lot because I've been following you quite a bit in the Warpcast ecosystem. You have been consistently experimenting and then providing value. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Regarding Basket, you can find Basket at basket.farm, all spelled out on Warpcast. Our Twitter account is suspended for some reason without us even using it, even with like even from the very first tweet itself. So we had to
Hmm.
figure out like how to get it unblocked. That's a weird part. So, but it's gonna be the same one. Hopefully, by the time this episode goes live, we have that unblocked. It's gonna be basket.farm, all spelled out. The key is to go and tag and then start making baskets, and would love to hear what kind of baskets you create, what was your reasoning behind creating that basket, and go and check out other people's basket. Like we're going to have a page soon where you can go and browse everyone else's basket. We have a contest coming where we'll be like giving away $250 weekly for basket creators, and probably even more up the ante when we see more traction. So point is, we have so many things that we can create in the ecosystem. Would love to hear anything and everything that you have to offer, guys. Whether it's a creation of basket, whether it's consumption of basket, whether it's marketing of basket. I want to learn from you guys, and we can see what we can build.
Awesome. Well, that all sounds great. I'm definitely gonna go check it out and probably make a basket myself, which I'll, probably be casting about and whatnot. So, thanks again for
Okay.
all the time, and excited to follow along.
Thank you so much, Jake. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.
Take care. Bye.